Hi there, here's a very interesting article in today's Guardian newspaper by columnist Polly Toynbee. So this article does relate to the UK, and they're referring in large part to Southern Ireland. For those of you who don't know, Northern Ireland is still part of the UK. Southern Ireland did free itself, so under very different rulings there. So the culture of respect for religion has gone too far. And this has been brought about by, of course, the Pope's trip to Ireland. Now, I've said elsewhere that on my father's side, my family are Irish Catholics. He was brought up in Ireland, taught by nuns, taught by priests, and it was brutal. It was brutal how they were brought up. I mean, punishments for the most minor infringements. You just didn't know some, then that was it. Thwack, thwack, thwack with a stick. It scarred them. It scarred them in many ways. Everyone was under the thumb. It was emasculating for the men as well, because they were under the thumb of the priests, of the church. It's hard to imagine, maybe for others in other countries, just how the Catholic Church affected everything in Ireland. And that's just in my father's time. It has changed so much. And I see him and others of his age, like he goes to church now on a Sunday because if he didn't, it would be noticed. Like he's got an older sister who is more devout, and she would comment on it. He comes to visit me on holiday, and I say, "Are you going to church, Dad?" Going, "Oh, I'll drop you off." "No, it's all right. No, it's all right." No, but you don't want to miss it. He won't go. It's just me getting my own back for the times he dragged me off to church. It's very boring. I know it's an awful thing to say, but it is. So the Pope came along, didn't he? After my ramble, the Pope came along. He did apologise for the abuse, but people are saying it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. So the bitter, broken heritage they're talking of here, leaving a legacy of pain and suffering. It is a history of sorrow and shame. This sorrow is not just for victims of monstrous priestly abuse, but the abuse of an entire society enthralled to clerical oppression, lives crimped, warped and blighted, no escape from the church's domination of everything. The best Irish literature breathes that pernicious incense. Was it Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man? Not read that for decades. But there's pages in that of this priest telling the children of what awaits them in hell if they're naughty. And anyone brought up a Jehovah's Witness will, I guess, sympathise with that. Hours and hours of listening to what punishments await. Pretty nasty. So if they've got Pope Francis's visit to Ireland had the opposite effect of the healing intended. It set a seal on the liberation of a nation broken free. So they have had they did vote on same-sex marriage. My dad's generation, again, they struggled with that. We had big talks about it, but they struggled with it, and abortion. So still heavily involved with education. The Pope apologised for the grave scandal, for the failure adequately to address these repellent crimes that remain a source of pain and shame for the Catholic community. But the Irish horrors are beyond apology. It says here, you've got the Magdalene laundress. I mean, what the heck was that? What evil was that? That was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. The forced adoptions. Did you see the film Philomena? I think it was based on a book. To break your damn heart. It's a true story. Absolutely awful. And of course the 800 children's babies' bodies found in a cesspit. Oh God, that's what the babies were worth. And those that survive these orphanages, they had a terrible time of it. I mean, the kids outside the orphanages decades past. If you've read Angela's Ashes, my dad's of the same generation. He had one pair of wooden shoes at one point. He didn't have any shoes. That was not something that you had. Imagine the cold and the snow and just sheer poverty, absolute poverty. But imagine that when you die, you're so disposable. There you go, into a cesspit. So. And then we have all the thousands abused by Catholic priests around the world whose crimes were covered up by bishops in the Vatican. No mere apology will do. No apology is enough for the many Africans contracting AIDS through Catholic clinics' refusal to issue condoms. Even if this better than average Pope wants to do more, he has a gun held to his head by unrepentant ultra-conservative cardinals. Another thing in Ireland about they just held sway that you couldn't have contraception. So I'd heard about people that go to England and buy loads of loads of condoms and sort of bring them back and sell them to people. But forcing people to have lots of kids is another form of oppression and control. Really kept people in their place. Women worn out with childbirth and caring for them, and men just worn out with trying to provide for them and having a house full of kids. So a lot of them lived down the pub. It was an escape. Apology without radical action has left unassuaged the anger of Irish abuse victims. They've spoken up very strongly. And they're saying, though, that on the fetishism of a celibate priesthood will attract abusers and pedophiles. It says, okay, we've got islands showing about the problems with Catholicism, but it goes on. Then all religions can be havens for abusers, similarly tainted, equally founded on controlling women's bodies. The Church of England was shown this year to have downplayed thousands of cases to protect its reputation, examining 40,000 accusations, but accepting only 13. 40,000 accusations, accepting only 13. You bastards. Cases emerge from madrasas, yeshivas, temples, mosques, and churches with warnings they are just the tip of the iceberg. Wherever a community is enthralled to elders of a faith that defines their identity, few dare risk the threat of expulsion from a way of life. Familiar. Is that familiar, people? Cases abound. The Imam in prison for 13 years for abusing young girls in his Quran class, or the BBC's expose of more than 400 children abused in madrasas. Despite plentiful cases among Jehovah's Witnesses, their rules still insist on 2 witnesses before a victim is believed. And let me put out there, please, Jehovah's Witnesses, why is it that a journalist knows about the 2 witness rule, but time and again ask a Jehovah's Witness about the two-witness rule, and they say, what two-witness rule? No, doesn't exist, which is either deliberate ignorance because it's out there in literature, it's out there on JW broadcasting, or feigned ignorance. A Plymouth Brethren case reflects the same pressure on all these communities. A 12-year-old raped by a senior elder was forced by her mother to write a letter denying her own allegation. You see the collusion there with the mother and the rapist. A lot of you will be able to relate to that. This collusion between the guardian parent of the victim and the criminal. Rights by Sikhs who forced the Birmingham Rep to cancel a play about rape in a temple, warned anyone exposing their faith to expect retribution. Buddhism is rife with cases. The leader of Shambhala International, the West's largest organisation, resigned last year following abuse claims. They're all down well at it. In Australia, Royal Commission, again, writer knows about this. This isn't her. She doesn't just write about this. She writes about every subject. So writer knows about this, but do the Jehovah's Witnesses. Royal Commission found 853 young children abused by Christian brothers. That's about 1,000 less than the Jehovah's Witnesses at that Royal Commission. Fear of ostracism by a tight-knit community has led to cover-ups in ultra-Orthodox Jewish groups. Dr. Samuel Heilman, a professor of Jewish studies at Queen's College, told the New York Times they are more afraid of the outside world than the deviants within their own community. Sound familiar, anyone? Sound familiar? Listen, learn. Please listen, learn. Within Watchtower, people think, we're the only ones living like this. There's loads of you all over the place. There's this group, that group, this group. Oh, it's really bad outside. It's really bad outside. Stay in. It's hard. Oh, it's scary outside. No, there's a lot of scariness inside. Are religions more prone to abuse than other institutions? No one can know, but wherever there is power, vulnerable victims struggle to expose it. Religions still command an unwarranted aura of respect, preventing outside scrutiny. Yet there should be frequent unannounced inspections wherever children are. The same lack of curiosity surrounds the growing number of homeschooled children. Of course, with some faiths, homeschooling is encouraged, and it can be a good thing. Britain should follow Ireland's example and set out to abolish religious selection in schools. That's about the in the UK, how disproportionate to the number of people now having a faith, how there are still it's still influencing education. Wherever religions hold sway, it goes on. LGBT people are persecuted and women subjugated. Islamophobia and anti-Semitism flourish. So talking about the bishops and House of Lords, don't even ask. It's so confusing. So, and how religion is blocking certain changes in law. So that she concludes, who would expect Ireland to blaze the secular trail? The hard lesson it has learned from an overpowering church is one we should learn too. Wherever people are in the power of priests, imams, or spiritual leaders, the state has a duty to inspect what's happening to the hidden away children and women under their power. The Irish lesson is less respect for religion and more instinctive suspicion. Well, thank you, Ms. Toynbee. And today's Guardian, there you go. Bye for now.